This is the Propcast, and I'm Louisa Dickins. Before we introduce our guest, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Leon Cantor from Future Place, organisers of the largest tech and innovation event for real estate in Australasia, the Real Estate Innovation Festival, taking place from 9th to 10th of November in Sydney. For more information, please visit realestateinnovationfestival.com.
Today, we are kicking off our ESG special for season 10 of the Propcast with the one, the only Vincent Bryant, CEO of Deepki, and Grigor Hadjiev, Allianz Real Estate's head of product and development for West Europe. And today, we'll be discussing how technology can help the real estate world to achieve net zero. So welcome to the show, Vincent and Grigor.
Thank you, Luisa. Very happy to be here.
Thanks for having me as well.
Now, on today's show, Vince will talk us through the founding of Deepki back in 2014 and how the SaaS solution data intelligence platform is helping to guide top real estate players in their net zero transition. Now, this is where Grigor comes in as one of Deepki's clients will give us a first-hand experience of how they are utilizing the SaaS solution and leveraging the data into the business-wider ESG strategy. But also, Grigor will be talking about the obstacles in adoption and transformation, what can be done to overcome it. Now, all of this would not be possible without capital. So Vincent will talk us through the Series C they went through and the plans for future product growth. And this is going to include a bit about their recent acquisition of the Greek. We'll finish off with their future plans and a bit more about Allianz strategy. So obviously, welcome to the show, guys. And let's start off with the first question. So Vincent, for our audience who might not know Deepki, do you want to talk us through the founding of it with your co-founder, Manuel? If you can elaborate a bit more about the product, the mission, and how does it really accelerate real estate's environmental transition in doing so as well?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Very happy to be here again. There is this issue called climate change, which is no longer a maybe assumption, and we all need to take our responsibility on that. Actually, the real estate industry stands for more than a third of the CO2 emissions in the world, because the way we use buildings, the way we build buildings, it all has an impact on the climate change. 8 years ago, my co-founder and I, we launched Deepki because we wanted to harness data to give our customers the resources to create and implement a comprehensive overview of their ESG strategy on their portfolio and to help them to transition towards net zero. That's why we provide not only a SaaS platform to our customers, but also some support with our experts in order to help them to transition again. It's not an easy topic because it is at the heart of the real estate activity. And it's not only an issue about regulation and compliance and reporting, it becomes a real issue for asset managers. And I'm sure Grigor will be more than me able to share on this topic as well.
Absolutely. And for our audience, could you talk us through a little bit more about the product? I'm sure it's changed quite a bit since 2014, but it's obviously a SaaS solution. Yeah. Could you delve in a little bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. Actually, we provide a SaaS platform to help our customers to build the comprehensive overview and then to have the right recommendations, to make the right decisions at the right time, and then to implement the investment decisions in order to reduce their impact. Practically speaking, it's a platform that help all stakeholders, asset managers, property managers, engineering, consulting firms, installation firms, in order to make sure that everybody is aligned to reduce the CO2 impact of the assets.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Now, obviously, this is perfect time for Grigor to come into the conversation. I'd love to actually first understand, where did this relationship first begin? Because even I met you, I think it was 3 years ago in Paris at I think it was a MIPIM event, and you were on your stand sort of pitching this. Grigor, when did you start looking at this product or hear about this product?
So to answer this question, I need to give you a little bit the context of what we're doing. So Allianz is committed to carbon neutrality by 2050, and therefore measuring the energy performance and the CO2 performance is part of our strategy since many years. So this is also what we do. So we collect a lot of data, a lot of the environmental data, obviously financial data since ever, but we collect since 10 years environmental data. And 3 years ago, we decided to put all environmental data into one platform. And this is actually how we met Vincent. This is how we started working also with Deepki as this unique platform to consolidate the entire data that we were already gathering.
Amazing. And talk us through, how do you use this product? You mentioned obviously about leveraging the data intelligence. What does that actually mean? And how does that fit into the data, I guess, your ESG strategy?
So as an active asset manager, we need as an input for our job, clean and trustful energy consumption and environmental data. And by the way, also a multitude of other technical and site operation information in order to understand the status quo of our buildings. And then for us, it's very important to have this trustful data to build our own asset strategy and to make sure that we're able to build up the respective decarbonization action plan. So to build this data decarbonization, decarbonization action plan, we need definitely clean data. And this is where Deepki enters into the game.
Amazing. Could you also, for our audience, so for those who don't know how large your business is, could you give a brief introduction to your business, the scope, and also your role, like where you sort of fit into Allianz?
So Allianz Real Estate is a global player in the investment and asset management activities of real estate. And for us, the understanding of the data is a kind of understood by the entire company. So everyone knows that we need and we collect financial and extra financial data. When I say extra, environmental data. And our colleagues are actively contributing into this direction. However, what we do now is we try to onboard hundreds of assets into the platform. And this requires tremendous amount of work at the beginning to make sure that we have something that is useful on the platform, that is trustful. And this requires also to review some processes, but also to redefine some roles across the value chain, because it's something that it's new, and the real estate industry was not ready a couple of years ago to embrace this kind of massive data collection and the use of this data collection. So on Allianz Real Estate side, we are able today to use the data, but we still need to work on the way of gathering and making this data meaningful, clean and transparent and trustful.
It's great to hear what you were saying about how the whole business is on board with this. I think it's a slight struggle with some other large businesses out there where not everyone is fully convinced and on board. Well, I think people are convinced, but they don't really know the strategy behind it, how they can sort of clean up the state and also how to utilize it and get the metrics they want. Now, Vincent, why don't you talk us through a little bit more about how you obviously secured a whopping 150 million, I think it's euros, so your Series C raise, which is incredible. This has helped you to obviously grow out your sort of client basis, but also what has this allowed you to do? Because you've grown a huge amount since I met you a few years ago. How many people are you now?
Over 200. And wow. We are hiring 300 additional people within the next 12 months.
That's crazy. Congratulations for that. And those listening in, this is a phenomenal business to work with. You know, the founder, how passionate he is, and also just meeting him in person. It's a great business to work for. Yeah. Well, what are the plans for it? Talk our audience through what you'll be working on with the product and how it'll be benefiting your clients.
Yeah, I think there is a momentum on the market right now for many reasons, including Corona crisis, regulation, especially in Europe. And we thought it was the right time to speed up the pace of our growth. That's the reason why we set up this fundraising, and we are very proud and very happy to welcome amazing investors that are top of the class investors in Europe and in the US. They have extensive experience in international expansion, in acquiring new companies. So it was key for us. But nothing would have been possible without the support of our customers and especially our partners such as Allianz, because not only do we share the same objectives, but also the same values. And it's very important to have people who trust you and that are willing to work with you. Because when you start, it's just a little bit you and alone. And so very grateful and very happy, thankful for having achieved that. Saying that now, we have indeed raised 150 million euros a few weeks ago. And what we want to do is now we want to look to expand our current footprint in Europe first, open our offices in the US as well, and double our workforce. We need a lot of sales engineers, developers, customer success, etc., and make some strategic acquisitions as well. So yeah, a lot in our plate actually.
Yeah, no, sounds like it. And we'll go into your acquisition, which you did not too long ago as well. But those listening in, and it also works for players like AWC, BRE and so forth. But back to Grigor. Now you can talk us through, obviously the business is on board and all the good things that Deepki is doing for your business. How is the whole integration of it been with it? Is it, obviously it's very important for obviously Deepki to have the people helping out the integration. You mentioned about the sort of sales engineers. When it comes down to real estate, why do you think some other businesses aren't so forthcoming to this innovation or adoption? Obviously, Grigor, you're telling us about the good things this product has brought to your business. What do you think needs to be done? Is it around education? Is there I guess, from a real estate sort of standpoint?
In order to accelerate the digitalization or?
Yeah, well, digital, yeah, exactly that, but also adoption. Is that why are some businesses not being as forthcoming as Allianz?
So probably we need to say that on the real estate market, we have a lot of products that are tech products that are not completely answering a specific question or specific problem that we have. And when you look on the PropTech competitions, we see a lot of solutions, and companies like our peers, we're looking on them and we say, how can I use that? What kind of problem this company is trying to solve? So I think that one of the obstacles is to really have products that are answering the existing needs. And that requires that we exchange that, let's say, the landlords and the investment and asset managers, that we exchange much more with the PropTech industry so that they can make sure that they develop products that are meaningful for us on one hand, and second place that they are also economically viable.
Yeah, I guess also that's a great bonus, the USP of Deepki. You started your product back in 2014. You've gone through obviously acquisitions. You've got capital. You've been developing the product to meet your clients' needs. Is there, Grigor, what's it going to take for real estate companies to start adopting more technology? There's obviously, we had COP26, COP27 isn't too far away. Is it going to be fines? Is it going to be more regulations? What would you reckon cause a bit more uptake?
So I think that as an investment and asset manager, we obviously need to do both. So we need to maximize the portfolio value by reducing the environmental footprint. And I think that regulation are definitely helping, are pushing or emphasizing or insisting, enhancing this environmental attention. But it's not only regulation, because the tenants are also requesting exactly the same. They want to have healthier workplace. They want to have services in their buildings. So I think that technology is one way of reducing the environmental footprint, but it's not only technology. So I think in the future, as investment and asset manager, we need also to concentrate on more soft activities with the tenants that are also very impactful to achieve exactly the same targets of environmental performance. I mentioned previously that we need to work together as investment and asset manager with the PropTechs, but we also need to work together with the end users in the buildings to make sure that the solutions are viable on top of being profitable for the PropTech companies and being useful for us to reduce the environmental footprint. So we really need to start working much closely together as an ecosystem with these native digital players like Deepki that didn't exist 5 years ago. So they're coming with a new way of working, and so we can align behind them or with them to move to the next year.
Yeah. And Vincent, what about you? What have you seen since obviously founding it back in 2014 in terms of uptake, overcoming some barriers? You know, how has your pitch sort of changed slightly? You've done a huge amount of expansion. What's the key thing which you've identified which helped you to do so?
Yeah, back in the days, the issue used to be to raise awareness, to create some outreach, to convince people that there were some interest to tackle the climate change issue. Now it's no longer an issue. Everybody is aware. Everybody is aligned with that. The new issues are around getting a comprehensive overview. And Grigor mentioned it, collecting the data, making it reliable so that you can understand what is the accurate and actual performance of your portfolio, each of your assets, each of your funds. So this is the main issue today. The next issue will be around implementation, because when the action plan, investment plan will be ready, then it will be around how am I able to implement and make sure that what has been implemented will provide the savings that we were expecting. And clearly, all the time, we have an additional dimension, an additional challenge, which is change management. Because, the real estate industry used to be an industry where it wasn't at the beginning a very financial industry. And in 15 years, at the late 90s, it started becoming a financial industry, and today it's clearly a financial industry. Now we have 5 years to make this industry climate change compliant industry. And there's a lot to do, and I think it's totally feasible, but a lot of change management is required to do so.
Yeah, it's a lot to do in a short space of time, but like you mentioned, the awareness is there. I can't imagine how many pitches you sort of went to back in 2014. Now, finally it's paying off. I guess there's also other variables where it's political. I think obviously a new prime minister in the US Biden will hopefully help your growth out in the States as well. And there's lots of other variables that sort of come into it as well, just outside of traditional real estate economics, I bet.
Indeed, there is a lot at stake today, but clearly this is a long-term need, And whatever the economical context, whatever the politics and the change in regulations, I think that we have today enough incentives on the market, not only regulation, but also brand discounting issue, and also our outreach among C-levels in the real estate industry to push this industry towards the right transition. And I don't know, what is your point of view, Grigor, on this? Do you think there is enough drivers to make it happen?
Yes, so I tried to give some hints on the previous question in this direction. So we have people on the ground. So we speak a lot with our tenants, and we should not forget that ultimately the tenants and the end users in the buildings are paying also part of these services, and they are front line. They're facing this kind of everyday issues with sustainability. They're the one that need to adapt their behavior there. So I think on one hand, there are this kind of tractions and this pressure on the investment side so that the investments become greener. There is definitely this regulation aspects on the second hand, but we should not forget and we should not underestimate the people, the end users in the buildings, especially in the office buildings. They also want that. They also want to make sure that the spaces are healthier. So I think that with this multiple pressures coming from, on one side, regulations, on the other side, expectations from investors, and on the third hand, expectations from the people, this is enough, I think, to accelerate and to move faster. And we already touched on that as well. I think that everyone understands that we go into this direction and that this is the future, but then how to make it pragmatically happen now? Because it's pretty easy to make engagement for the future, but we need to take actions now. And I think that the digitalization and the smart technology as a whole is exactly the elements around which we can start discussing, like how to add more services to the tenants in an office building while making the building greener. Because the tenant wants to have, for example, a meeting room that is with good air quality, but we should not overheat the room in the night when the room is not used. So solutions like Deepki are helping us to understand the right level of technology and granularity of the data. They're helping us to improve the comfort for the people in the building, but they're also helping us to reduce the environmental footprint. So I think only when we combine these different aspects, we can really come to fast acceleration of this trend that we all understand, but that is a little bit difficult to put in place on a single base.
Vincent, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's amazing. I cannot agree more, actually. Maybe the last point around the different changing on the market will be around the changing regulations. I hope that, politics and governments will stress that there is not too many changes, because otherwise it's harder for political actors to figure out what to do, and stability is useful as well.
Yeah, for sure. Right, well, we're coming to the last question, and we haven't spoken about your acquisition, which is great. And I'm sure there's many to come, as you sort of briefly alluded to. Talk us through for brief. Well, why the acquisition? What does it mean? What does that product do? What's the extra solution it's going to provide to your customers?
Yeah, look, acquiring Fabric was an important step for us, and it allows us to further consolidate our global leadership position. They are the leader in the UK. This represents as well the first in a series of acquisitions, I hope. And we are continually looking for businesses that are complementary to Deepki, both in terms of technology, but also in terms of value. And watching the space is clearly an important matter for us. And this is one of the main reasons why we raised funds. But we are so happy to welcome a Fabric team, whom we not only share values again and same objective, but also the same vision. And the vision is absolutely key to build something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually just been on a personal note with our business as you sort of grow. I mean, we're not at LMRE, we're not at over 200 people. 200 recruiters sounds terrifying, actually. But I think it's so important when you're hiring and growing a business is to have that clear mission and vision. And obviously it changes nonstop when you're growing business and you're developing your product. But especially for millennials and Gen Zs or Gen Zs, that's what they look for if you want to sort of get buy-in and just carry on growing together with the same sort of amount of energy and continue to get buy-in, because that's so important to culture. We've come to the LMRE part now, but first, here's a word from our sponsor.
With inflation at its highest since 1982, we want to make sure that both our clients and candidates are prepared for a shift in the PropTech market. A huge advantage of our consultants being 360-degree PropTech recruiters means that we can communicate regularly on both sides of the business. Our job is to make both the hiring process easier for clients and the job searching process easier for candidates. In short, a recession can be intimidating, unpredictable, and tumultuous. But it doesn't need to be. We at LMRE are here to help. Head to our website, lmre.tech, and we can find the right talent for your company's needs.
Now, Grigor and Vincent, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We're going to finish off with the final part, which is the LMRE part. And we'll just split it up because conscious of time. But Vincent, I'd love to hear from you. What's sort of the main lesson you've learned throughout your career? I know you've been at Deepki since 2014. But before that, you were obviously involved in this space. Is there anything with the audience you'd like to share what you've learned?
I think something that's coming to my mind is around the execution. Execution is everything. Not only to combat climate change, but also to run a business. At the end, what is important is to make things happen. Whatever the quality of the technology, whatever the intent, everything is about making things happen. So really believe on that.
Thank you for that. So Grigor, is there anyone you want to give sort of mention, a shout out to a product? If you like, you can do Deepki as well.
So I kind of believe that the future of buildings is completely smart and digital. And so this is disrupting the way that real estate works. I think that the last disruption in real estate with this size was when the elevator were invented. So I used the opportunity to send a message to the entire digital ecosystem of today in the real estate. Guys, move forward and make sure that we work together to make that happen. And I'm very positive about what is coming.
Awesome. Vincent, what about you? You want to give a shout out to your investors, obviously Allianz?
When I talk to new customers, I quite often mention you, Grigor, because you've been able to very quickly within a big organization with a very complex international portfolio to create alignment internally and with your different external stakeholders so that you have one of the strongest, I would say, strategy in terms of ESG today on the market. So very proud to be part of your ecosystem of partners. But maybe another example I have in mind is I mentioned that the implementation is key, and I'm not sure today we have on the market, what are the market, UK, Germany, France, enough resources, engineering firms, installation firms, contractors, and everything to implement things. And I think that the training is absolutely key so that people can be able to implement actions that will reduce the impact on the climate. And I discovered this company called La Solive. It's a French company, and their job is to train the people within the real estate industry, especially the construction industry and the maintenance industry, so that they can provide qualitative services, so that they can have in mind all the stakes around climate change and do the job properly on this topic.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Now, the final two ones. So, Grigor, I'm going to ask you this one, and it's the R part. What's been the most rewarding part of working in this space?
Being able to see changes quickly.
Well, that was easy for you to answer. I like that. Okay, right now, Vincent, this is perfect for you. What are you most excited about for, I guess, the future growth?
I want to enter the market, and actually that I think that technology and real estate can definitely have a strong impact, positive one in the world. And I'm so proud to be part of this industry, which joins, as Grigor said, two things, not only technology and high tech, but also low tech. It's like click and mortar, it's using technologies on physical assets, but it's also implementing low technology solutions, such as reducing the temperature of your office, for instance. And I really think that the real estate industry, and especially the prop tech one, has a huge opportunity to change positively the world.
Thank you very much for that. Look, I want to thank you both for obviously kicking off the season 10 of our ESG focused podcast. It's something which I think we're all passionate about. Everyone's looking to learn a lot more about it. You both have been involved in this space longer than a lot of our listeners. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. I'm looking forward to catching up with both of you after the show, but thank you again.
Thank you, Youssef, for having us.
Thank you.
Making a high-quality podcast like this one takes a lot of work. That's a fact. But not when you hire a podcast company. With our white glove experience, we handle everything for you. From guest outreach all the way through to publishing and promotion, we handle it all. You show up to hold great interviews and build relationships with your guests, and we take care of everything else. Podcasting is not just about the audience. Every podcast interview is the start of a new relationship. With a weekly podcast, you'd build relationships with 52 ideal partners or prospects through your podcast interviews over the next 12 months. Do you believe that 52 new relationships would help grow your business? We do. Contact Jason at apodcastcompany.com and let's talk.